Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. Anyway, tonight we got another great book, or the same great book, the Star Library, right here, and we're going to be continuing on with our fellow adventurer. So, and as he's been going, last we know they've battled a prairie fire. They were out on the plains. They're trying to make it where they're going to go. They found some great places. The soil is super good out there, but it tends to be a little bit, it's on the plains, there's buffalo, there's all kinds of things out there. And of course, there's also Indians. And they've been battling these wildfires and things like that. So with that, we're going to get right on where we were going. And we're going to continue off. Of course, you all know this is set back in the 1800s, probably around 1840, 50. So, well, 1840, 50, somewhere in that time period, as the men and women were traveling out into the sticks out there, to see adventure. So our guy is going out, and he is on the adventure of his lifetime. He's signed up with a trapping expedition, and he's going along to take. And so with that, he is out there with his compadres, and we're going to join up with him where we last left off. And of course, I got a presentation for you, because you don't want to look at my ugly mug when you can look at some cool pictures. And screen share, away we go. Thank you all for coming tonight. As always, I really enjoy having you around and listen to my story. I hope you're getting a lot out of this. The point is to go back in time and find our beginnings in this great society that we live in today. Why? Oh, there we go. Okay, the bottom upon a small bank is between 3 and 4 miles broad and of light, deep, and rich soil, occasionally sandy but covered with thick and lusty vegetation. Back from the valley ranges of broken sand hills mark the transition to high arid prairies. In the rear, where vegetation becomes more dwarfish and stint in its growth, and it's intermingled with frequent cacti. These immense plains are generally clad with a short, curly grass, the buffalo grass, very fine and nutritious, and well adapted to the sustenance of the countless herds of buffalo and other wild animals that feed upon it. Their soil is generally of thin vegetable mold upon a substratum of endured and sand and gravel. Yeah, so it wasn't very good, but the grass grew great. In many places, it is quite sterile, producing little other than sandburrs and a specimen of thin, coarse grasses, and sadly failed to conceal its forbidding surface. In others, it is but little better than a desert waste of sand and hills, or white, sun-baked clay, so hard and impervious that neither herb nor grass can take root to grow upon it. And in others, it presents a light surface, both rich and productive, beclad with all that can be beautify and adorn a wilderness of adventure. The springs and streams of water are few and far between, and evil, however, slightly atoned for by the occasional pools formed in favoring depressions during the rainy season, where all are retained in their places by the extreme hardness of the soil. Were it not for these, it would be almost impossible in many directions to travel the vast prairies lying between here and the Arkansas and the Missouri, from longitude 20 degrees 30 west from Washington to the Rocky Mountains. This section of country should ever become inhabited by civilized man to any extent except the vicinity of large water courses is an idea too preposterous to be entertained for a single moment. As the reader is now induced to a grand prairie as it is, it may not be amiss to say anything or something relative to this phenomenon before dismissing the subject at hand. The steppes of Asia and Panamas of South America and the prairies of the Great West, so far as my information extends, are possessed of one general and uniform character. There is something deeply mysterious associated with them. The puzzles the philosopher and the cosmetologist to explain. Why is it neither timber nor shrubs as a general thing are found within their confines? Why have not the same causes operated here which produce the stately forest in other regions? The above question is often asked and often unanswered, but never satisfactory. Some respond by the reference to their frequent burnings, others to some chemical defect in their soils, others to generally of their climate, others to their arid because they're arid, and yet others to the supposition that some operation of nature or art has affected the destruction of the quantum forest and reduced them to their present condition. Each of these answers, though doubtless partially true in many respects, fail to solve the problem before us. Here we have many places, almost measureless, extents of fertile soil, moist and abundantly watered by rains, springs, and ever-flowing streams, with all the criteria for the producing of trees, and what withholds them? Other sections of the country underneath favorable circumstances are not wanting in this respect. Why is it? Timber of every kind adapt to the zones and the climate will grow at thrifty and planted here as elsewhere. The frontier forests of our western states have been observed for years past to make slow but constant encroachment upon the congenious prairies from all sides, whereas yet they have a foothold. And why? Partly because their enlargement is not circumvented by those annual burnings that formerly devour every tender shoot, daring to raise its head above the ground. And partly, though, the operation of other causes, sure, the granule in their effect, which have planted the groves of other lands and taught their branches to wave in the breeze, doubtless the same causes would produce the same results, all over these vast regions as elsewhere. But why have they not? Why are the prairies timberless? Simply because of sufficiency of time has not yet elapsed for the operation of these causes. Timber has hitherto had no possible chance for generation. The phenomena is rightly viewed, will thus explain itself. Geology points to the time when these vast solitudes were the bed of an old ocean and the home of waves, but gradually emerging or suddenly alleviated from the watery abyss, now present some of more recent formations of dry land. Herbage and grass being more easily propagated than trees, sown as they are their seeds by the birds and scattered by the winds of heaven. In a brief interval, be ward and the newborn earth will smile with smiling green, thus clothed with venancy, they soon became the favorite pastures of the countless herds that thronged them. With game appeared the red man to hunt it, and with him the yearly conflagrations that now repel the intruding woodlands and confirm the unbroken sway of solitude amid her far extended domains. Here, then, we have spread before us the prairies as we find them. The problem of their existence needs no further solution. October 12th. Still continuing up the Platte by its south bank, we made camp one night near the head of the Grand Island. During our progress, we saw large quantities of wild geese and cranes, and in the river bottoms that presented tempting marks of our voyagers. One of the latter, a tall, raw-boned, half-crazed, and self-confident Missouri Ned, who, natured and innate, sporting the familiar subsequent of Big Jim, wishing to prove the truth of the Dogberry exorcism that some things may be done as well as others, started to approach a large flock of sandhill cranes, parading half obscured in the Platte of the grassy near the roadside. The wary birds, however, caught glimpse of the approaching Nimrod and flew. Still our hero advanced, crawling upon all fours to within 60 or 70 yards of their recent position, when rising up, he espied an object which he excited imagination portrayed a crane, and promptly yielded to it in the contents of his rifle. Of course, the obsidian creature remained in statue position. Reloading with all possible speed, he again fired, but the second shot proved futile as the first. Determined the next should count whether or not he advanced. Still nearer, he had raised his rifle for the third discharge, and before the naked truth burnt upon his astonished vision, he had been shooting at a branch of dead grass. Shouldering his rifle, now he rejoined the caravan and was received by the wags who had witnessed this exploit as follows. "Oh, Jim, I say, Jim, did you kill it?" "Hang me, but I stood fire well, didn't it? Reckon you wanted a bigger charge." "Stranger, you couldn't knock it. You're cold in the distance. Maybe your gun's out of order." "Yes, I'll bet a stewed crane of it. Have you noticed the sights lately?" "Why, Jim? Really, you've had bad luck. What, within 60 yards and not kill it? I can beat that all day." "Ha ha, Jim, shoot him, grass." This rally was received by our hero in good part, who joined it in the sport with as much gusto as though someone else were the victim. The day, however, was not permitted to pass without another display of prowlness by Big Jim. A doe antelope, attracted by the strange appearance of the moving caravan and impelled by its inmate curiosity, had ventured to a tempting proximity. Mounted upon a fleet horse, and supposing he could easily ride down the antelope, our hero started in pursuit. Intently surveying the passing scene, the agile animal permitted him to advance within a few yards of her before she took the alarm. Now was a novel race. Away went the antelope, and away went Jim in full chase. The former was soon far ahead and stopped to graze upon her pursuer. Supposing she had become tired and was about to yield, our hero came dashing on impetuously under a whip and spur, fully intent on her capture. But again, away went the antelope, and away went Jim, whose steed, ambitious as the rider and proud of its own fleetness, strained every nerve for the crisis. Even the antelope seemed to have found a champion to contest her unrivaling and universally acknowledged superiority. With discontent mouth and protruding tongue, panting in the excitement of fear, and foaming in the veracity of the effort, she gained but slowly upon the bounding charger, as both swept over the prairie almost with speed of the of the storm of wind. Now, again, she stops to graze upon her pursuer. By this time, all began to feel an interest in the result of the strange race. The word resounded, "Go it, Jim! You beat that beater yet. You'll beat her yet." Once more, the antelope shoots from before both horse and rider, like the swift-winged arrow twanged from a giant's bow. A broad ravine intercepting her course was cleared at a bound and left the flying animal far upon the other side. At a bound, the steed also cleared the barrier, but in striking upon the opposite bank, it plunged headlong upon the yielding ground, tossing the rider far away in advance, all safely sprawling in a sand heap. The luckless Wade, on recovering, found his noble beast so sprained by the fall it could scarcely stand, and its every nerve vibrating with frightful tremors. Of course, here was the final of the race, and as both now returned to the caravan, the recent rider on foot leading his jaded steed, the ridden slowly limping behind, presenting a marked contrast between the opening and closing scene. The ill-fated horse was too much disabled for further service during the journey. As our hero joined the company, the joking, loving wags again provoked loose. "Well, Jim, I say, did you catch the darn critter? Pooh, why didn't you hold on and not let her slide through your fingers in that way? Why, man, you wasn't spry enough when you jumped off your horse, or you might have caught her just as easy. I'd like to know what was driving you in that sandbank. The other antelope wasn't there." "Oh, Jim, shoot him grass, kill horse. Me look next time he run antelope." The passive recipient of these sallies had little peace from henceforth, and soon began to wish he had never seen an antelope or heard of crane. Well, there you go. Chapter 5. Let's continue on. Chapter 5. As we join our little caravan. Chapter 5. Deserted camp. Big Jim, third attempt as a hunter. Buffalo and other particulars. Big Jim lying guard. Butchering strange sections. Extraordinary eating and excellence of buffalo meat. Yeah. Near camp was the site recently occupied by the Pawnee village, whose occupants had evidently deserted it with the utmost precipitancy, leaving lodge skins, mortars, bowls, pans, and a variety of other articles strewn confusedly upon all sides. They had doubtlessly become alarmed at the approach of some real or supposed enemy and consulted their own safety in flight. Having started early the next day, our hunter soon brought to 2 fine antelope, the sighting of which again raised ambition of Big Jim, who would faint in no deeds of equal wonder, and he accordingly strolled off into the hills with that intent. After shooting at several of the wary animals without success, he began to get tired of the sport, and concluding the poverty-stricken creatures not worth the powder and lead, set his face far for the caravan. Plodding leisurely along, he espied a prairie snake and, enjoyed at the thought of counting a coup. Rather, his rifle, by the small, brought it down with such force, he not only killed the snake, but broke his gun stock short of the breech. With the pieces, one in each hand, he made his appearance before his comrades, who hailed him. Looks like Big Jim is quite the hunter. "Hello, Jim. What'd you kill?" "Gun broke." "Why, you must have overloaded it." "Well, you go hunting again, 'cause I want to go too." "Poor Jim. Shoot grass, kill horse, break gun. What in the darn Tootin loses him mean. Never mind, Jim. Don't be a streaker at these fellows. It takes you to play the devil and break things. Towards night, several buffalo bulls have made their appearance out. Our hunter, mounting a horse, started for the chase, and in a brief interval, returned laden with a supply of meat. Camp had already been struck, and preparations for the new item of fare were under speedy headway. The beef proved miserably poor, but when cooked indifferent as it was, I imagine it to be the best I've ever tasted. So keen was my relish, it seemed impossible to get enough. Each of us devoured an enormous quantity for supper, and not content with that, several forsook their beds during the night to renew the feast as though they had actually been starving for a month. The greediness of the greenhorns was a prolific source of amusement to our voyagers, who made a night air resound with laughter at the avidity with which the unsophisticated ones walked into the affections of the old bull, as they expressed it. Keep on your belts till we keep on your belts till we get among our cows, said they. Then let out a notch or two and take a full meal. It was equally amusing to me and rather disgusting withal to see the old birds, as they called themselves, dispose of only liver brought in camp. Instead of boiling, frying, or roasting it, they laid hold of it raw, and slopping it mouthful by mouthful in gall, swallowed it with surprising gusto. The strange proceeding was at first altogether incomprehensible, but the reader shall have followed me through all my adventures in the wilds of this great West, he will find me to have obtained a full knowledge of its several merits. The beef of the male buffalo at this season of the year is poorer than any other. From April till the 1st of June, it attains its prime in point of excellence. In July and August, these animals prosecute their night-arranged campaign and begin running and fighting, and gallantry find little time to graze, finally emerging from the contested field with hides well gored and scarcely flesh enough upon their bones to make a decent shadow. It is not marvelous then, that our lavish appropriation of bull meat at this time, when it is unprecedingly tough, strong tasted, and poor, should excite the mirth of our better informed beholders. The night was a cold one, and claimed it for Big Jim, as second guard. When called for a relief with the borrowed gun, he commenced his rounds, but the cold soon drove him into camp by the campfire. Here, weariness and some effects of the generous heat speedily found him stretched at full length towards the fire, snoring away at a source of the subject of the combined influence. So don't eat bull meat when they're in season. Put it that way. The guard time had expired, and his partner on duty, perceiving the pleasant situation of the indomitable Jim, called the next relief and retired. These paced their rounds, and fourth guard succeeded, but still our hero occupied the same place in which he had lain his tour. The sentinels were about to take their post as a loud, sharp voice resounded throughout camp. Quiet there! What d'ye mean? Hastened to the spot from which the cry proceeded. Who should be seen but Big Jim, in great agony, rubbing his foot with most pitiable grimace. His slumbers had been disturbed by a falling log of on the campfire, which had planted its glowing weight full against one of his feet, crisping the sole of his shoe and severely scorching its tenant before awakening him. Dreaming someone had told hold of his foot, he started by a sudden acuteness of pain. He exclaimed as above quoted. So his foot started on fire. He was too close to the campfire. The sentinels laughed at his mishap and, turning to the pace of their rounds, drawled out, "What'd you mean? Sure enough, what'd you mean? Shoot grass, kill horse, break gun, lay guard, burning shoe, and scorch foot, all in 2 days and 2 nights. Poor devil. Why, born, while better luck." No luck for him. Big Jim is not to have much luck, is he? With the morning and the subject of his recent adventures called forth fresh things, a waggish wit, while the unraveled capacity of our hero as a groundomizer gave cue to the cuts that followed. "Well, my head for a football, if that ain't the greatest idea yet. What? Roast foot? Basted with leather, and his own at that. Such a meal, none but Jim could ever have thought of it. Why, man, what put you in this notion of that there dish? Strange indeed if you can't find the wherewith to stuff your devil without cooking your feet. So be sure, here you can take my hat." The luckless wit had now enough to engage his attention during the remainder of the journey, and began to wish he had never seen a mountain company or left his sweet home in Missouri to cross the great prairies with such a crowd. But all to no purpose. He was too late to trace his steps alone. And we're going to stop right there at October 13th. Wow, it's getting pretty late in the year, but October 13th is October 13th. You know what I mean? And that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I hope you all enjoyed this little bit of a story. It's been a lot of fun, and we're really getting to find out. Buffalo, you don't want to eat a summer buffalo. You only want to eat especially a bull. You want to wait for the cow. And then, and the Indians move out. I wonder why the Indians moved out and left all their stuff behind. That kind of makes me wonder. Well, with that said, everyone, thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed this, and we will catch you for the next part, October 13th of this chapter. See you soon. Peace, everybody.